And joining me now to talk about the importance of tonight's speech is former U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Bruce Heyman. Thank you so much for joining us, Ambassador. How are you?
I'm doing quite well and very excited for tonight, actually.
Yeah, and I know that you've spoken in the past about President Joe Biden's mental sharpness, but how much does he have to convey that to Americans tonight?
I think it's important. I think, he has to lay out the fact that we're facing two futures in America here. One in which we look forward and have lots of rights for women and choice, for people to love who they want to love, for your ability to read the books that you want, free press, that your vote is valid. All of these things. And then important for Canada that we care about our allies and we're a multilateral country leading into the world boldly. The other side of that has to be clear to everyone, is we have a former president who is in retribution mode, who is focused mainly on himself, and that everything else that he's doing is about taking away rights, taking away your voting rights, proudly saying that he got rid of the women's right to choose. And all of the factors that go with a man who has 91 counts against him, 4 indictments, and has been found guilty of sexual assault and owes nearly $500 million in the next 2 weeks in terms of liabilities to the courts if he wants to appeal. But for Joe Biden, he has to lay this out very carefully. He has to talk about the successes that he's brought. And many people don't realize there are over 400 bills that were bipartisan bills passed. And many people just don't fully appreciate all that. And then he has to then pivot to talk about why you should vote for him for the future and how important that is. And your point is right. He has to do it in a way that gives people confidence that he is the right person at this time to take that leadership baton forward for the next 4 years.
Yeah, and especially in the way that he does it. I mean, what will you be looking for to make sure that he continues to sort of have that ability to show Americans that he can do it? Because, Ambassador Heyman, I don't think anybody can deny the fact that there are questions about whether or not his mental acuity and he has the ability really to keep going for another 4 years at 81.
I have no question with his mental acuity, but we all, me included, slow down as we age. But I have interacted with him and his team. I was at the White House in December. And I will tell you that from my perspective, while he is 81 years old, he is clear-minded. He has a moral compass that points due north, and he is the right person for the right time. But you're right, he has to demonstrate that tonight, and that people will pay close attention. And unfortunately, as a child, he's had a stutter that he still tackles to this day, that if he stutters or misplaces a name, that while all of us do that in our lives, that this man will get the attention of the world on him tonight if he does.
And how much of tonight is about Biden speaking to his own party to rally them behind him as a candidate and really ensure that the Democratic base is ready to get out and vote for him?
So I think there are 3 parts to the people that he's speaking to. The first part, you're right. He has to speak to the Democratic Party to give them the continued confidence to show up and vote. He is the nominee de facto, and he will be the nominee of the party this August here in Chicago. The second group that he needs to speak to are independents. Those people who tend to vote Republican or Democrat, go back and forth and try to, go with the right person. He has to give them the continued confidence. And the third group are the Republicans who do not want Trump. And we saw through the entire election seasons up to this date that when Nikki Haley was getting between 20 and 40% of the vote, polling showed us that a very large number of those folks will not vote for Donald Trump. And what the Biden team is going to want is they vote for Joe Biden. And so he has multiple constituencies that he's trying to go after.
I just have about a minute left. I wanted to squeeze in this question. One of the things that the U.S. has managed to do is avoid a recession, yet, and the economy is doing well. However, prices for nearly everything remain high. So how does Biden thread that needle of telling Americans that they're doing well while most of them aren't really feeling it in their bank accounts?
It's really difficult, honestly. Food prices are up, and while inflation is moderated, if prices went from, say, 90 to 100, and you're saying, well, it doesn't go up very fast from 100, it still went from 90 to 100, and people are still feeling that. They're feeling that across the economy. Now, inflation has come down, and I expect it's going to continue as indications from the Fed. But I think that, there are aspects of this that are quite unfortunate that people feel the way they do. The US economy is the strongest economy in the world today. Of all the other economies in the world, we're doing better, and we did not have a recession, and we continue to plow along. Stock markets at record high, 401ks, IRAs, people's wages are moving up, especially at the bottom end of the economic spectrum. And so we actually have a good story to tell. But this inflation is definitely something that affects people psychologically and affects people in their pocketbook. And unfortunately, the president doesn't control inflation, but he's the guy that, bears the brunt of that, responsibility in the voting booth.
Yeah, it comes with the top job in that country, I guess, and really every country. Former U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Bruce Heyman, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We appreciate it.
Pleasure. Be well, everyone.